Hello and welcome to Lemon's Alphabet Advent Calendar, Day 4. We have two fresh letters off the press today. We have a G and H. Let's just dive into the G game of the year. There was actually a good amount of competition with G. I mean, you wouldn't think that a lot of games would start with that letter. But if you're one of my friends that I play games on Discord with, I think you already know that there is a game that is great. It was just what I was after. It was, as you'd say, was exactly what I need. And when I saw it, I mean, I just had to say, I think I'll use my credit card. And that game is Grocery Store Simulator. Now, on the surface, Grocery Store Simulator, and even when I first played it, it was pretty bare bones. It was a little shack of a store, and you had shelves, and basically what you do in the game is you will order goods from the computer. The truck comes, you can put it in storage, and you can just put it right on the shelf, and then you sell it to the customer, and then you have to check them out. And there's a couple of mini games involving that, but that's really like kind of just the gist of it. Now, the main draw to this is that it's cheap, and I convinced my friends to play with me. So there was all sorts of shenanigans with the decorations and, you know, everything. People were drink managers or like running the produce section, and it was very easy to delegate jobs in the early kind of sense of it. But what I did, because I'm a big nerd, is I made a big spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet was basically like, given a certain amount of large shelf space and small shelf space, how many orders you needed in order to completely fill up your like shelf inside of the store. I think that like part of the like challenge of the game is that the items all have different volumes. So, and there's a lot of different variety here. So it was kind of hard to just be like, oh, if you just get 2 of everything, you'll fill up, you know, X amount. But because sometimes like the chips, there's like 30 of them. And then other things like the flour, there's only 6 of them. And it probably is sad that I have that memorized. But yeah, I'm definitely going to say that there was a surprising amount of, you know, exploitability in terms of like making it a spreadsheet and just kind of being content with the machine that kind of runs itself, because you can hire employees on top of, you know, the co-op that you do with your friends. So I even had a solo game where all I really needed to do was order the food and put it in the inventory, and then the automated employees would take care of basically everything else. Even like self-checkout turned into like a really big thing. But this game got a lot of good updates. So they added a bakery, they added frozen goods. I know that they added instruments, which the Grocery Store Simulator community was very torn on the instrument adding, because come on, you gotta make Grocery Store Simulator great again. The instruments are really fun with friends, and so is the forklift. So I think the devs did a good job. I don't know why. I think that like at one point the game was a little unstable, and maybe that was why everyone was upset. But I'm just gonna straight on attack the Grocery Store Simulator community in the name of Supermarket Simulator. Woo! That game, I haven't played that game. I don't know if it's better. I like Grocery Store. I think that a Grocery Store Simulator is good enough for my grocery store simulating needs. But maybe not my business needs, because gazillionaire is what I want to be, and that game is awesome. Is a kind of I played it again like this year. Is actually a really old game from like 1996 or maybe even 94. It's old. You can tell that by the art style and interface and how simple it is. But honestly, I love that sort of stuff. You're looking at sheets, like literally an array of numbers and things, and you make a decision, and there's a slider on the screen, or you type in the number, and that's your haul. There's a surprising amount of replayability, because you pick your fleet and you get to name your own business, company, whatever. You can pick the whale, which is really big and bulky. It's slow, but it has a lot of inventory, so it's you're always gonna move last in the simulation, but you're gonna have a bunch of inventory. You also, get a decent amount of like passenger space or something, and that's just like an example because there's like 8 different, ships. Maybe there are more than that. And all sorts of different strategies. You can play with friends as well. I think that would be really fun, actually. But my friends aren't that big of like nerds, I don't think. I think that they would think that Gazillionaire is dumb. Hopefully you don't think Gazillionaire is dumb. Something that other people also think is dumb is Gears of War. Because Gears it was almost like a you had to be there moment in like the Gen 7 consoles where you're playing Gears of War 1, 2, or 3, which is probably when Gears is its most popular, and lovely games. Gears 5 is on Steam, and I've had it for a bit, and I just had a real big hankering for like a good third-person shooter. It might be due to some other third-person shooter on this list, but I was really kind of craving it, and yeah, Gears 5 made it on. I played a good amount of the campaign. The enemy variety is fantastic. The horde mode's cool. Even the escape mode is cool. I played a lot of the versus multiplayer as well, and it was a lot of fun, to say the least. It's a very refreshing take on like a competitive shooter, and a lot of people still play it. Mainly people from south of the United States of America, but nevertheless, it was a great time to just run around with a Nasher and gib everybody. That's the kind of game that it is. The last one on G is our resident cozy game, Galaxy Burger. This was a game that I really wanted my friends to play as well. I guess not as much as Grocery Store Simulator. It's a cooperative cooking game. I love cooking games. Just wait till we get to the letter P, because there's going to be a whole rant about that. Galaxy Burger, it's a little bit like in the oven still. I think, if it's not still in early access, it's very young. Its core gameplay is there, but you get orders from the different people. You have to make them, they're burger oriented. You go to the different planets and you kind of unlock other parts of the solar system. It's just cute. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't played it a whole lot. I played it for I think like 2 hours, but I'm definitely looking to go back, even if it's just for like a couple minutes or so. I'll definitely check it out if it's something that interests you. All right, that is the letter G, the real OG. All right, so now we're going on to H. H has a lot of old favorites in it. So when I was thinking about my H game of the year, Halo came to mind. Really just the Master Chief Collection. Halo Infinite is great, but again, as a lot of people have kind of commented about Halo Infinite, the most recent entry, it's like a really nice card that when you're driving it drives beautifully, but then when you're not driving the car, you're not actually playing the game, the whole experience is super clunky and uncomfortable, and it's kind of just hard to believe that a Microsoft game studio would have so many problems like with its own engine. It's because apparently the Halo Infinite was made with a lot of contractors that are kind of dealing with spaghetti code. But again, like once you're in the game, it is like, mwah, it's fantastic. Forge is out, so there's all sorts of great Forge creations, and it's obviously Halo, so it's still gonna have like a pretty active community, but just I don't think deserving this time around. Same holds true with another game that I thought would be my H game of the year, which would be Hades 2. I was kind of surprised when I saw this one in early access. I think that though that was almost like a funding thing. I know, I'm pretty understanding of games when they know that we have to ship something in order to like get the money to be able to actually like get it out the door. So that's why I don't really have as much of an issue with early access, especially with indie games like Hades. If it's a AAA game or it's from like a bigger studio, it's usually because of an overinvestment in other aspects of the game, like the freaking freckles graphics, So you know, that's just not here or there. I haven't played it a whole lot, and I don't really plan on it until the 1.0 release, but I already like pre-ordered it because I was excited. I was like, wow, it's out. But then I kind of read the reviews. It's like, yeah, it's definitely like almost like a test. Another one would be Hotline Miami. I always seem to go back to Hotline Miami. It's almost like a nice default single player like action game that's not directly a shooter. Yes, you shoot guns and hit people and stuff, but it's almost like a strategy game mixed with that. So I think that it is a really nice blend. I really appreciate the story in the second one, which I know a lot of people almost give it flack for because it's kind of like the original Hotline Miami was a lot more subtle in its story, and the second one is a lot more explicit. I think that the first one was almost too nebulous because you only really got the story once you were getting like all the collectibles and stuff like that. Otherwise, you're kind of just going through it. And part of that is impactful is when you just kind of click through cutscene and then you realize like, oh wait, I'm a monster and like I'm, you know, you're killing these virtual people and you're not feeling anything, and then the game like directly calls you out on it. It's cool. The second one is a little bit, you know, more of an actual story again. That I guess you don't need a spoiler for Hotline Miami. Another honorable mention for H, which is probably the one that I played the most, is Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. Dude, I need to make a video on this. This is probably my favorite VR game ever made. I wouldn't be surprised if people got a headset just to play a game like this, or a game that is this. Half-Life Alyx, which is not on this list, but I guess I could give a brief shout out to Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx is great. There are mods for it that kind of extend the playtime, but it is a VR experience, and I don't think you're really going to be playing it more than once. Maybe I'm wrong. We don't have the benefit of time, because I know that like Half-Life 2 is like another one where you just kind of revisit from time to time, and it's always a lot of fun, and it's, you know, you always almost seem to be immersed in like the physics-based stuff. With VR, it's very much kind of similar, but I think that Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades just takes the cake. It still has an active developer. Anton is awesome. You get to see his vlogs almost every Friday. I know that he's working on another project, but he always seems to be coming back to H3, and he always seems to have a lot of very creative ideas or quality of life improvements that like will significantly like keep like perfecting and morphing this, you know, idea that he had into something that is really special and shareable. In the end, it's just like a firearms simulator, right? But it's a firearms simulator with, you know, Team Fortress 2 in VR characters, but like the guns are actually realistic and you have to know how to use them, and like learning is just such an amazing thing, and that it is very entertaining, and a player will do that for themselves as well. So Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades definitely deserves a runner-up. This next one is going to maybe be a little surprising. I don't think it's that surprising, but it comes with a bit of a caveat, so make sure you hold on to that. My H game of the year is Helldivers 2. It's such a great game. It completely like revolutionized the original source material. Like, it used to be a top-down game, but now it's a third-person shooter, full stop. And it's one of the best co-op experiences you could ever have. Now, some people, I don't really know if anyone watching this video, but there's a big controversy with this game, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pitch my 2 cents into it. It's the PlayStation stuff. So the game got unexpectedly very popular, to the point where there were a lot of like things that might have kept people from logging in that held, you know, that were removed in order to kind of speed along, you know, the servers that were at capacity and that you were in queue for maybe upwards of like 2 to 3 hours, and you just needed to get in. But once you were in, it was really fun. It was a super polished experience. There were no real microtransactions in terms of like improving your gear or your stuff. So it is amazing from that lens. But PSN. So if you don't know, PlayStation Network it's like another layer that gets you from start, you own the game, you have to have a PSN account now in order to get into the game. Now, PlayStation Network is notorious for things like data breaches and the like, and it wasn't originally required when you got the game through Steam. You just got to play through Steam. And like, awesome. Like you were in the, other than the server thing, you know, there was no other like sign up or anything required. But then down the line, they actually rolled back that ease of use and they added the fact that you needed to have a PlayStation Network account, which it's not available in every country. So there were all sorts of controversies about people that originally could play the game and then now can't because PlayStation Network is now required. And I can completely understand somebody wanting to uninstall or refund the game, whatever, because of this issue. It's like corporate greed, straight up, right? So if that is a deal breaker, I 100% understand. I think that if you are not wanting to support PlayStation or PlayStation Network, Earth Defense Force 5 is another honorable mention here. I know it's not GH, but you know, Earth Defense Force 5 is very similar to Helldivers. It's just that, you know, not as good graphically, and I think that, you know, the Earth Defense Force community, they kind of acknowledge that their games' sequels are very hard to tell apart. But anyway, Helldivers 2 is a really fun game. When we were in, it was a blast. And fighting the bugs or the bots, it was lovely. I can't like discredit it on the PSN stuff alone. And I know that the main reason why I wanted to put it still here at the top is that it's not really the developer's fault. They have to have their game being published by Sony. They can't really like have any saying power. I mean, and the saying power that they would have is just completely like nonsense for a business. It would be like, well, we're not gonna sell our game if you're gonna make us put PlayStation stuff. Like, no, that's just not practical. I mean, it sucks. It's just a sucky situation. In the future, I will say that I'm going to be very weary of, you know, like Sony published materials that are on things like Steam, especially if this is going to repeat itself, which it probably will. Let's not lie. Unfortunately, I really hate that I have to add like a really big caveat like that, because again, it really is genuinely a fantastic game. It's very well polished. The vibe makes you want to watch Starship Troopers. But in the end of the day, like, that's just kind of how it is, you know? Helldivers 2, now it's getting like DLC with new species to fight against. You know, I wouldn't forgive you for completely forgetting that the game came out, because again, we played with my group of 4 friends and it was just fantastic, and played for a really long time. Things kind of fizzled away, especially as the controversy kind of grew. But now it seems that there are vehicles now, and there's like another faction to fight against, and it seems to be getting a whole lot of updates. So it's kind of hard to ignore at this point that it's here to stay. I don't think that Helldivers 2 is going to go anywhere anytime soon. Especially as the live service hopefully stays very consumer friendly, and that it's mainly cosmetics or skins or whatever. So yeah, I think that is the GH video. Let's tune in tomorrow for some IJ. The video's over. Please help.